got basic today. I'm also doing a small section of it at my exhibit, so you should definitely go by if you haven't already. So BASIC stands for the Beginner's All-Purpose Symbolic Instruction Code. The original language was designed in 1964 at Dartmouth College by John Kennedy and Thomas Kurtz. I have a picture of them right here. So BASIC, it was based on Fortran 2 and intended for some less technical users who didn't have the mathematical background that was previously expected to write mainframe computer programs. It was also one of the first languages designed to be used interactively. And then in the 1970s, coming up, 1970s was the start of some huge growth for BASIC because it was high level but small enough to fit into the ROMs of the microcomputers. So there were a bunch of variants made for computers like the Altair 8800 that is turning 40 this year.
Yay.
Yay. And then jump forward a little bit to the 80s, where almost all of the home computers that were made had a variant of BASIC built into their ROM, which they booted directly into. So the Apple II, the Atari 8-bit, the Commodore 64, the TRS-80, and the TI, they all had BASIC built in. And they each had their own variant. So Microsoft BASIC was not all of the Commodore computers. Atari BASIC for the Atari 8-bit, and TI BASIC on the Texas Instruments. I have a picture of one of the TI computers up here. And also there's an interesting story behind the version of BASIC for Apple. It started out as integer BASIC, which was written by Steve Wozniak and supplied with the Apple I and the original Apple II. And it was designed for writing games, but that meant it could only compute integers, so only whole numbers, positive and negative. But because it only did integers, it was really hard to write like finance programs, that kind of thing. So when Steve Wozniak was busy working on the floppy disk, Apple had to turn to Microsoft out here to write the new language for the Apple II. They called it AppleSoft, so Apple and Microsoft. So now I'm going to show you a few little programs that you can write in BASIC. These are all demo programs from my exhibit outside. The first run is just infinitely writing something to the screen, and the next one is just one that counts and just counts all the way to infinity or beyond. And another interesting thing to say is that when you're typing on a computer, a lot of them don't have a delete key. You have to just go back with the arrow keys and write over, and that can be somewhat confusing because on a lot of computers, the arrow keys, you see, were in the wrong order. This is from an Apple II where it goes left, right, yeah. All right, so when you're programming, all of your lines are numbered, and most people count by tens in case you have to write in between each line. So for an example, here's one of my programs. It's just 10, print hello, and 20 is go back up to 10. So what this program does is it writes hello over and over again on the screen. The print command just writes whatever to the screen, and strings like hello go in quotations like that. It's an important thing to remember. So what this does is, you have once you type run, because you have to type run to get it to work, and just start writing hello, 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 because the go-to command tells the program to return to a previous line, so it's going back up to 10 and writing hello again. So now I'd like to talk about variables. You use the let command to assign a variable, so you would have let your name equals whatever value you want to store. So this example is let x equals 0. It's pretty simple. So the rest of this little program is it's let x equals x plus 1, print x, and go back to 20. So this is just adding 1 to x, printing it, and then returning to line 20 to start an infinite loop. And what it does is it just starts counting. So, you know, just start 1, 2, 3, 4, and it'll go for a pretty long time until it just gets so high that the computer can't really calculate that high anymore. Yeah, so the next thing I'd like to talk about is something I did for a school project one time, where I wrote a MATLABS program in AppleSoft Basic on my Apple IIc. It came out to about 17 lines to write, I think, 4 sentences that you can customize like MATLABS. Next I have the code that I wrote, just image from the screen. There we go. So everything up to line 70 is just asking for your input, input each word, and then from 80 below is just printing everything else with a bunch of print statements. So you see it's just print, input, print, and then, yeah. And the last thing I'd like to talk about is just how BASIC is used today. It's not as widely used today as it was maybe about 30 years ago, like that. And it isn't taught quite as much as more modern languages like, like Java, Python, that kind of thing. But it does still have some uses. I know a lot of large companies still are using mainframes with BASIC just because they don't have the time or resources to upgrade to something else. And it's also popular with computer historians like us. Yay. And so yeah, that's all I have for today. So.
By the way, Ben, your watch, it's written in BASIC.
The watch is written in BASIC.